You're so very welcome. Thank you for coming and showing some solidarity with us. We really appreciate it. The purpose of us being here today is to create some pressure. So whilst we normally do an entertainment, having a good crack at really nice high quality stuff, none of that. It's a pressure point we're looking for. All of your efforts, all of your caring, all of your livelihoods, we need you to put that into a pressure point to send this to a place where it becomes achievable. Are you with us there? I'm loving it. Thank you. It's great to feel your presence here because we know that we're not alone and we need that because it's hard, isn't it? It's a hard road and we're at the end of it and we really hope we can topple it. And we have to. We just cannot not do it.
You're here.
"20 wonderful people have agreed to speak for 3 minutes each. We once did a thing called an urban party in Smithfield with some eminent city council members actually back in the day. It was a long time back and it was brilliant because it focused the mind of those 20 people, of which I was one of them actually, to speak for 3 minutes each and no more. So we have Clarabelle has roused a sort of a vicious looking instrument to cull everybody's 3 minutes. And we've got a variety of brilliant people who are going to offer us their reasons why the complex should be saved. And we have asked them to focus their mind on just that because we're filming it and we're also live streaming it, or streaming it. I'm not terribly good at that kind of thing. And we hope to be able to use it afterwards. So limited cursing, everybody, if that's all right. And 3 minutes each is going to be rigorously maintained. Obviously not for me, because I've just been speaking properly for more than 3 minutes, but I've got a beautiful lineup, and we'll have then a 5-minute break after 20 people have spoken for 3 minutes on a conveyor belt of ding-dongs. We will then have a 5-minute break for everybody to jump, get a drink, and go to the loo and all that, and then we'll have an open forum for half an hour where people can speak and ask questions and say their piece and whatever. Is that all right with everybody? We'll cram in as many people as we can, and we've also got another screen outside just there in the bar, so if we get more people as the weather impedes everybody's getting here, we've got more space for people outside as well, so we'll try and bring them in too, if we can. All right, are we ready to go? Everybody ready? Everybody very excited? Yes, very good. Our first person to speak, just put up your hand, Ken, I can't see you here. He's right with me, is Kenneth Killeen, who is our acting chair, who is also the CEO of the Improvised Music Company. So he also speaks as a tenant. So you know that they're based in the Cooler upstairs. They're the National Agency for Jazz and Improvised Music, and it's been the most wonderful partnership having them here as artist in residence. So for his sins, here is Ken's 3 minutes.
Thanks, Vanessa, and thanks everybody for coming out. I'm speaking tonight, as Vanessa mentioned, not as a board member, strictly speaking, but as a tenant whose entire artistic community is now facing eviction on the 14th of January. What is happening here is very simple. An entire cultural ecosystem is about to be put out on the street, while the building itself may be left empty. And that's happening at the exact moment when a real workable solution is finally in reach. Dublin City Council is in, our loan principle is in place, and the only missing piece is really the state enabling the mechanism that already exists to complete this. And the loss here is not hypothetical. At the complex, hundreds of artists work across theatre, dance, visual and community practice. And speaking just as one tenant, at the Cooler alone, 141 musicians and their bands rely on that room as their professional home. And it's where 830 rehearsals take place every year, where 50 concerts are produced and recorded for audiences and to help Irish artists step onto stages around the world. Ronnie Scott's National Concert Hall, Electric Picnic, you name it. And just in that microcosm, 4,000 jazz fans walk through that door annually. So this isn't just a hobby. This is cultural infrastructure and identity that took years to build. And when a cultural space goes dark, and we've seen this countless times, it's not just a building that disappears, a community disappears, a pipeline of talent disappears, a sense of belonging disappears. And Dublin has lived this cycle too many times. Jigsaw, Block T, the Tivoli, Hangar, the Bernard Shaw, and every time a space goes, a part of the city's identity goes with it. When do we say enough is enough? Why do we constantly have to fight for something that essentially should be a civic right? Culture is not a luxury good. Politically, we need to name what's happening. The crisis is not the result of a lack of meetings, believe me. Ministers have been engaged. Minister Donoghue visited here and expressed his willingness to help. Minister Chambers said again this week he recognises the urgency. Yet departments are now pushing responsibilities sideways. Culture is saying they don't fund purchases. Housing and Heritage sitting on the only real viable available solution, the U or the F. In a situation like this, there are no neutral positions. More than 13,000 people have already spoken through the petition, including your good selves, I imagine. They understand something that official Dublin keeps forgetting. Cultural spaces are civic spaces. We protect schools, we protect sports grounds, we protect places of worship, we protect them because they anchor identity. And cultural spaces do the same job. So here is the ask to the government. The URDF is there to use it. This is not about inventing new schemes, this is about political will. And finally to everyone here, keep speaking, keep showing up, keep the pressure on. Power moves when people move. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Fantastic. Thank you so much. The next person to speak is Brian Montague, who was our chair for many years and now has been acting amazingly now as our advisor on development. He's a sensation, this man. We could never have done it without him. He's been here since the beginning. Brian Montague.
Thank you, Vanessa. Very unfair for you to ask me not to swear in 3 minutes, but I'll try my best. But thanks to Vanessa, thanks to the complex, I cannot tell you how much it means to them to see all of you here tonight. If ever they were in any doubt of their place in the artistic community in Dublin, you've answered that question, and for that alone, I thank you. I've been involved in the complex for 11 years, 9 years as chair until the end of 2023. I stood in this building when it was an empty warehouse with Vanessa and some other board members at the time, looking at the holes in the ceiling, looking at the dilapidation and thinking to ourselves, we've no right to be here, we've no idea how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. 2 years later, we opened as the facility you see today. Just quite extraordinary. This space, the studios, the boiler, the gallery, countless dozens of people rely on this building for their livelihood. The complex itself invested over $1 million in the infrastructure of the building, as well as improving it with the planning permission that we got for it to operate as it does today. As of the 15th of January, this building is going to be empty. And I suspect it will be empty for 18 to 24 months, because that's how long it takes for a redevelopment of a building like this to happen. What a crying shame that that could possibly be allowed to happen. It absolutely is not necessary, and it requires two things, one of which Ken's already mentioned, but let me repeat it. It requires central government to step up, to do the right thing, to provide the funding that we've been calling for, that we've created business case after business case to get support for us to buy into the development of this. We're not against the development of the building. We want to be part of it because we want it to be our permanent home. Dublin City Council have been our best friend Pretty much from the day we moved in, we've moved from being a pain in the ass to being, I think, in their eyes, a very, very important cultural organisation. They've supported us both financially and in many other ways, and I'm delighted that Ray Yates is here tonight from the council, because that means a lot as well. So we call on government, but I also have another message. We call on the landlord of this building, the Smith family, to give us more time. Patricia Smith wrote us a letter and said we have to get out of the building on the 14th of January. Please, please, please give us more time. We can get this done. We can get it done with your support. We've paid you $850,000 in rent since we've been here. We never miss a month. And with your help, hopefully we can persuade them. Get on your social media, get within your own communities, appeal to this family, appeal to this landlord, appeal to Patricia Smith to please give us more time. Good luck, Complex. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for that and for everything that you do for us. You've been my rock. Willie White, you all know, he used to be CEO of the Dublin Theatre Festival and now works for TUD. I hope they're happy, I hope they're grateful.
Hello everyone, I'm going to make my point at the beginning in case I run out of time or start waffling. It's a simple point. Dublin desperately needs spaces for culture. It's as simple as that. I put on my first show after college 30 years ago this December, I think. It was upstairs in the International Bar. I was very excited myself. But in the time I've spent involved in performing arts in this city in the last 30 years, I can add more venues to those that Ken enumerated that have closed. The City Arts Centre, the SFX, the Crypt Arts Centre. The story of my life in Dublin and from the country is of art spaces closing, not opening, or our spaces being derelict. I visited the Ablana, it's still there. I visited the Rupert Guinness, it's still there. So there's something weird about this city that tolerates spaces that could be used for culture, either closing or lying derelict. So what are we going to do about it? Of course, people are angry, people are distressed, people are frustrated. The simplest thing we can do, and I draw your attention to the fact that there's an election sometime around April, no later than April of this year, in this very constituency, created by Pascal Donoghue, moving on, unfortunately, for the complex. So what I encourage you to do, and this is the lesson from the Campaign for the Arts, is don't talk to each other about how you're annoyed. Talk to your politicians. Tell your people, whether it's this constituency, and there are many politicians here. I see Angus O'Sully here, I see Gary Gannon is due to speak. I saw a Green Councillor locking their bicycle outside earlier. TD, sorry, Gleshka. So that's what we need to do. We don't need to tell each other how bad it is. We need to communicate with our election representative. Not just national representatives and TDs, but also the local councillors, not just for this constituency. We need to tell them that this space is important. I look around and I think about the fruit market is going to be developed. It's going to open sometimes in 2027. I look at how fantastic Capel Street, what an exciting part of the city develops into organically. And this is the kind of city that I want to live in. I think how complementary that a complex arts centre would be to the fruit market and to Capel Street. When I was on the SPC of Dublin City Council, I moved a motion that a feasibility study be undertaken for a 500 space venue in the city, because we sorely lack one. And Turley Associates did that piece of work for Dublin City Council, and they established that yes, there was a need. That's as far as it's gone for the moment. The complex actually promises to deliver just such a space. So all of you here, many of you here, you're involved in or you like culture, you're used to using your imagination. What I say to the politicians now, don't tell us that it can't work and it won't work and that the mechanism is there. Use your imagination, save the complex and defend space for culture in Dublin.
Thank you, Willie. This is spectacular. I know you care a lot about cultural infrastructure. Sunil Sharp, are you in the house? Sunil is from Gives the Night.
Thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, so I'm going to, 3 minutes isn't a long time to talk about this. If I had more time, I'd like to talk more about policy and the lack of a policy that will help to save and protect venues and spaces like this, like the complex. We could be talking, maybe it'll come up after all these 3 minutes when it's open in a forum. But what I want to focus on primarily is something Brian said, actually, and it makes me think about events that we ran here last year called Square Roots, where we were trying to unlock ideas and opportunities around cultural placemaking, space making, and new spaces in the city, essentially. Something you mentioned was about this space going to waste, lying idle for 18 to 24 months. And that's something, unfortunately, that Dublin does really well. We're very good at space wasting here in Dublin. And that breaks my heart. I think it breaks a lot of people's heart, the amount of potential that we see in spaces. Quite often with spaces, you get 2 or 3 good years out of it, especially if it's some people that are coming from my community, which are coming from the dance community, the club community. Here is infrastructure that we need for life. This is a lot of the time when we're having these conversations, and whether it's with civil servants, when we're trying to reimagine what Dublin could be like, we're looking internationally to what a good model would be. This is the model. This is a multi-use space. This is a multidisciplinary art space that has actually opened its doors to our community as well. This has been highlighted for quite a few years now by ourselves and many people and politicians as well about the loss of dance spaces. So I want to focus on that, but also to speak to something that Vanessa was talking about in an interview earlier this week. She has laid out in pretty clear terms how much it would cost to start a venue like this from scratch. How many years would it cost to create a venue like this from scratch? You know, this is ready to go and should be in use, hopefully for the next few years. I don't know when you might have to vacate, but the idea that this could still be in use while a solution is found, and I know maybe Vanessa, you don't want me to say this, but I do think there is a good opportunity if we did have more time to talk about community ownership, and it's something that we've flirted with, that we've talked about, but there are new models around ownership, and I think that's something that could be coming down the line if there is more time here. But just lastly, this is a dance space. It resembles somewhere like Andrews Lane Theatre as well as a dance space. If I was to walk into this space at another venue in Europe, for instance, and see it, I'd straight away be going like, holy shit, I want to play here and I want to come back here. I played here on Culture Night, had a great night. It was like no other place that I played in Dublin in quite a few years, and I was only really related to somewhere like the Tivoli, Hangar, and probably nowhere else. So we have like what it has been an open door to the dance community, to a whole community that didn't have access to a space like this in the past. Lastly, and this last point on this was a point that was made by Ciara O'Connell down in Central Arts, which sadly is a venue that had to shut down there, and she said that she was making her space more accessible, making the arts more accessible to communities that don't normally get to access a space like this. Vanessa and the complex have opened their doors to our community, and we want to stay here, and we want this venue to retain what it is and build on what the plan is for the future. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. It's eloquent as ever. Fantastic. Now I'm going to welcome to the stage Isabel Nolan, who's an artist. That isn't her. An artist, and she has also been selected to represent Ireland at the Venice Biennale. You're very welcome. Welcome the dog kind too. Here we go again. I'm still grieving the loss of the joinery, and I'm still grieving the loss of Broadstone. And I'm fucking furious that yet more artists are faced with losing their workspaces. Sorry, Vanessa. We know that politicians and elected representatives and people with access to coffers that we don't have are very proud to talk of the diamonds that our cultural work produces, the creative achievements of artists and writers and musicians, and they're all held out to reflect so well on Ireland. And many of those same representatives show no interest in the conditions required to make those diamonds. We know that the complex, which supports production, rehearsal, experimentation, and showcases and shares that work too, is an invaluable organisation. It's essential to have such places because we only find meaning in what we do in relation to others.
100 years ago, in an essay by Craig Owens, I don't know policy or infrastructure, you'll get the gist now, sorry. I read a question that I never forget to think about, and the gist of it was, how do we learn to conceive of difference without opposition? I read it as a call to see difference not in antagonistic or polarizing terms, but to see difference as something that adds value, adds complexity and nuance, and makes important demands on our own beliefs. Art gives us this space for negotiation with ourselves and with others. We know that we live in a violent, unjust and frightening world, and yet we still find beauty and reasons to stay alive. And I think artistic work of all kinds works with these complexities. It gives us ways to negotiate being a human. It's absurd, and it's magic, and it's important, and it gives us a chance to love the world. The Complex Gallery gives us that space. I've seen so many shows here, events and performances that rehearse and test and play with difference in serious and funny and beautiful and puzzling ways. I've seen superb work by people I've never heard of, and superb, unexpected work from artists whose work I complacently believed I knew well. Mark O'Gorman somehow catalyses a process or simply makes room for brilliant work and shows to emerge. Often it seems through a really unusual and compelling process of conversation and negotiation. And speaking as a visitor, every show looks to have been nurtured with respect and with love and with an aesthetic new that is somehow really singular and broad, nimble and deeply serious. The gallery here is a jewel, but a shape-shifting one that reflects life as it changes, and every show feels unmissable. And I don't want to miss the shows that won't happen if the complex goes. There's so much more to celebrate about the complex, and I don't want to be grieving it. That's it.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful and memorable too. Russia Goen, the wonderful Russia is the CEO of Dublin Theatre Festival, and I'm delighted that she's here. Thanks, Russia.
Hi, my name's Rasha, and I'm the new-ish still Artistic Director and CEO of Dublin Theatre Festival. In recent years, we've presented some fantastic international work and the premieres of new Irish work here at the Complex, and we were hoping to work here again in 26. We were dreaming up a fantastic, amazing programme that would take over the space and make use of it in many different ways. Quite simply put, we just can't lose this space. For a capital city, one of the most expensive cities in Europe to live in and to visit, Dublin's arts infrastructure is exceptionally poor, and we need to be honest about that. It is exceptionally poor. While our artists and the projects that they produce punch well above their weight, the venues they work in, the spaces they make that work in, do not. Speaking to an international colleague recently, she compared the cultural infrastructure here in Dublin to cities like Girona in Spain and Gothenburg in Sweden. Not Amsterdam, not Lisbon, not even Riga or Tallinn, but small cities of less than 200,000 people. And I'm not dissing any other city and their infrastructure, but the fact is if we say that we're a cultural capital that presents excellent work and that sends that work out into the world, we need the infrastructure to be able to support that work. Dublin has fewer venues than all of those other cities, and it has no well-equipped, multi-purpose, flexible art space. There was a clear and beautifully articulated vision for the complex to become such a space, and everything that the complex has been doing in recent years was about articulating that vision and proving that that vision was important to the city, that it was important to the theatre community, to the dance community, to the clubbing community, to the music community, to zine fairs, to all kinds of cultural activity. This was a place where different kinds of things could happen, where the space could be used in different ways. We don't have any other space in the city that can do that, and we need that space. It's already so hard for artists to live and to make work in the city, and without them and their work, what are we left with? Dublin deserves brilliant art, brilliant culture, and the extraordinary talent in the city needs space to make their work where audiences can come and enjoy it. We cannot seriously call ourselves a capital city if the city and the state is not willing to invest in the most basic infrastructure required to allow for that. Saving the complex is not a luxury, it's a basic requirement for European capital cities' venue infrastructure. We can and we must protect this space and make the necessary investments so that artists and audiences can thrive here, as they have been doing for the last 8 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Roger. I really appreciated that, thank you. Senator Mary Fitzpatrick. Are you in the room? Yes.
I am.
Are you
Yes.
coming to the stage, Mary? Okay. The long route. And don't have any jokes to hand, but we'll struggle through. Senator Mary Fitzpatrick has been incredibly helpful to us, and she's from the Fianna Fáil party, and she is most welcome to the stage. Mary, you can choose the microphone.
Thank you. Yes, very good. So good evening, everybody, and apologies that I'm out of breath, and I'm also a bit short, but I missed all the intros, so apologies. Vanessa, you're just going to have to bring me up to speed. You put me on the stage.
Not a problem. Mary, you've got 3 minutes
Okay.
to say why you think the complex should be saved.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
that okay?
Yeah.
You're being filmed and it's being streamed.
No pressure. No pressure. Yeah.
It's all good and you look beautiful. You're fine. Okay. Off you go.
And being a woman, of course, that's all that matters, isn't it? I'm Mary Fitzpatrick. I'm, as Vanessa said, a senator, and I am a member of the Fianna Fáil party. And Vanessa, I can't remember how long ago it is that I met you, but it's a long time. I grew up here, but I spent many years actually living in New York, and I'm not terribly creative or artistic, but I really appreciate the arts, and I really appreciate what Vanessa and everybody who has occupied this stage and studios and this space have done. And the value and the richness that you bring is unique and at times imperfect, but all the more beautiful and valuable because of that. So I'm here tonight to support Vanessa, to support the complex, the artists. I'm grateful that there's such a great turnout, and I do apologise for being late. I'm not going to hog the stage. I was given 3 minutes. I'm not sure how many minutes that is, but I look forward to hearing from everybody else. And I'm absolutely committed to ensuring that we save the complex. I think it is essential. It's essential not just for the artistic community, but actually for Dublin to be a real capital city, a real modern European international city that has everything in it that we need. So thank you for turning out, thank you for supporting the complex, and I look forward to working with you to save it. Gormagad.
Thank you, Mary. Sorry to put you on the spot. We are striving to create a pressure point, Mary, so you might hear back at the end of this hour when 20 people have had their 3 minutes and we open to a public forum, we're a forum for people to speak. Ray Yates is coming forward next from Dublin City Council, who's the answer. So.
Sáisih, Ianta Bhain Seo, agus trúbhéile chun cás na bhfuilmid má tá a caiileú spás cosúla seo. Since its inception, and it was before this space, Dublin City Council have always supported the complex, whether it was through funding or at board level. And one of my very first meetings, I'm just about 15 years in the council, I think the first meeting, my first meeting was with Vanessa, who was overholding in a retail unit down in Smithfield, and she was, trying to tough it out there, and she's moved from space to space. And as everyone knows who works in the arts, creating a space is, an incredible act of self-sacrifice. And there are long hours and very no pay to make a space actually work. I don't really like to talk about property. I'm trying to make things happen, which is a different thing than just having the aspiration of making it happen. or the difficulties of making it happen. I often think in my own job there's three things. There's aspiration, policy, and implementation. The aspiration is total. I don't think anyone disagrees on what we need in cultural infrastructure. The policy is a very either absent area or contested area. But we hope to do something about that in the coming years, and it does take years. And then the implementation is quite poor, and implementation by definition is messy. As far as how do you solve this particular problem, well, there's probably several scenarios. You may not be able to solve the problem. That might be the first thing to face up to. And what alternate spaces could the complex move to in the area of Dublin 1 and Dublin 7 that it loves? And we're trying to now look at alternate spaces that are a little bit far away, because it took 2 years to make this space habitable. It could take that long again to make a space habitable, even if you could find the space. And the next thing is kind of long term, because everyone knew in the beginning of this experiment that it was a time limited lease with a private owner, and it's very difficult for government to invade that space, to buy into it, to raise investment. Just speaking very practically now and legally. However, I know that the conversations are occurring, which I can't talk about behind the scenes. I don't know what they will yield, but I know that the complex will be at several meetings in the next couple of weeks to see can a formula be found that will unlock the investment. But the site is much, much larger than the complex, isn't it? It goes all the way out to the various streets, and it's an incredibly valuable site which is privately owned. So you're putting one value against another value and hoping to get a win-win. But I'm sure as well too that under the city development plan, the loss of cultural spaces is seen as a priority. So I would hope that that will happen as development goes forward, that cultural spaces will not be lost because of redevelopment. But keeping open on this is a very, very difficult task to achieve. My job is to try and be the glue, or as someone said, the fertilizer, and I know that kind of stands for another word as well, in the various things. And I've been in touch with all the agencies today. We can only keep at it and make it work, and try and keep this place that everyone loves and no one wants to see close. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ray. We're all going to be thinking about that now, wondering what that means. We're all going to be having our own open forums. Well, we hope it's positive. Thank you. Brian Cuthbert is the Deputy Director of Uplift, who've been incredible to us in initiating a petition, which many of you have signed, and I believe we're nearly at 13,500 signatures, which is wonderful and growing, and we thank you for the efforts that you put in for us and others. Oh, Brian, you've come in. I would have gone on for 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Absolutely no need to go on. Uplift exists through own campaigns that supporters care about, and it's great to see so many people coming out on a horrible cold and wet night. It's a real testament to how much the complex means to everybody. So fair play. I suppose I won't take too long. Just to say a few things that human beings are social creatures, and we don't do well in captivity. If you're confined to your place of work and your sleeping quarters, and that's it, you're going to see spikes in mental health. In mental health crises, you're going to see increases in antisocial behaviour. The complex is actually an investment that saves costs in other areas of our society, and that's something that's often overlooked. As an artist myself, I can say that I'm hugely indebted to some of the collaborative creative spaces around Dublin City. When COVID happened and these spaces closed, I didn't write anything for 2 years, because when the spaces go, the art goes. If your local swimming pool closes, people aren't going to splash around at home in the bath. It just doesn't happen. No, but generally, like, you need the spaces. You need to be bouncing off creative people. You need the place to foster that creativity. Footballers need a pitch. Artists need an artist space. And yeah, I suppose kind of a notable fact is, like people have said, the amount of closures that have been happening across the city. It seems as though the government is taking the city that's full of playwrights and poets and sculptors and storytellers and replacing them with hotels and Airbnbs and a kind of a grid of glass and steel. And if they're not careful, they're going to be left with something that resembles Dubai without the sun. And genuinely to see Dublin, a creative city like that being turned into such a miserable and uninspired image is something that's quite scary and quite realistic, I think. So yeah, as has been said before, the cost of the space will essentially pay for itself in other areas, in costs at A&E admission rooms, in costs in local Gardaí, tackling antisocial behaviour, things like that often go unseen and overlooked. But it's important to note that this space is going at a bargain. Like for the government to miss out on this opportunity, it would actually be terrible financial business from the government with such an enormous surplus. And when you're talking in the tens of billions, this is a drop in the ocean, and to pay for but to pay for a space like this would cost so much more to build it from the ground up, and the effort that's gone in can't be understated. Again, if we're not careful, we'll be left with a city that's full of Airbnbs and hotels, but nothing in Dublin that's actually worth visiting. So yeah, raise your voices like we did for the cobblestone. Use your platforms and your art and bring your energy to the petition delivery next week. And yeah, please do fight for the complex and save the complex so it can continue. So save the complex so it can continue to save us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was terrific. I now want to welcome George Hooker. George is a studio artist, photographer and filmmaker. Let's see you getting up, George. George. He's behind me. It's pantomime time. It'd be funny if it wasn't so serious, wouldn't it? Okay.
Hello everyone. So my name is George Hooker and I've been a studio artist here at the complex since 2020. And I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my friends and colleagues here in the studios. As studio artists in the complex, we welcome the opportunity to add some context to the discussion tonight. Later, Alison will give more of an idea of what it's like to work here and why the collaborative physical setting is vitally important to maintain. To begin though, we'd like to give some context about why these studios are fundamental to the wider ecosystem of arts in Dublin and Ireland. The quality and originality of Irish arts are noted and celebrated worldwide. Our artists have represented us at forums like the Venice Biennale, the Oscars, and festivals like Glastonbury. The expertise and professionalism of Irish artists is recognised on a global level. However, the reality of being an arts worker in Ireland reveals a story of precarity. Artists face a constant struggle to secure the spaces we need to work. According to the DCC Arts Office Building Culture Report, commissioned by the Arts Council in 2025, approximately 2,500 artists are working in Dublin, and 41% of that cohort, that is over 1,000 people, are actively seeking a workspace. The loss of the complex would exacerbate what is already an extreme lack of infrastructure for cultural work in Dublin. There is a clear pattern over the last decade of arts venues and studio spaces being lost in Dublin city centre. These include Monster Truck, Moxie, Temple Lane, Broadstone Studios, the Hendrons Building, Sun Studios, New Art Studios, Jaja Studios, Block T, The Joinery, Market Studios, D-Light Studios, Henrietta Street, Maybus, Steambox, South Studios, The Dark Room, Damn Fine Print, Tivoli Theatre, and our neighbours around the corner, Ormond Art Studios, who are also currently under threat of eviction. The complex is truly a multidisciplinary facility, and it's a model example of what a community-orientated space can be. Our building, which is centrally located, accessible, and culturally rich, needs to be protected. The complex's location means that artists are embedded in the fabric of the city. This is a symbiotic relationship in the delicate ecosystem that is Dublin. If the arts are integral to our lives and our identity as a city and as a nation, we need to fight for the workspaces where that art is created. This isn't a moment of defeat. This is a moment when we can put all of the collective vibrance, creativity, collaboration and positive energy of this space and of our broader arts community into action. We need to save the complex. Thank you.
Thank you, George. There's no reduction in the rent. Marie Sherlock, TD, are you in the house? Loving it, thank you so much. Marie is from the Labour Party and has spoken beautifully for us in the Dáil. Hope shifting, shaking the trees. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa. And wow, what a turnout tonight. And I suppose obviously it's a reflection of how strongly we all feel, because I know for so many of you, it's your livelihoods, for many others, is that we want to support the arts in this city. And Vanessa, you know, you and I and a number of others sat here in the complex 17 months ago when we in the Labour Party organised a meeting to talk about the very issues that are now confronting you today. The lack of state support to art spaces, art studios across this city. And as the previous speaker, and I know others have referred to, the sheer lack of space that is available for artists to make their lives in this city. I've been watching this issue over the last number of years, and over 20 years, we've counted the loss of the closure of 52 art spaces in this city. And I know that that's probably a small share of the total number of closures. And I am determined with every fibre of my being that we will not see the complex added to that list. What is happening at the moment? We've raised the issue three times this week in the Dáil, and apologies that I'm late because I've just come from the Dáil, but with the Minister for Finance, or the Minister for Public Expenditure Reform, Jack Chambers, and with the Minister for Culture, Patrick O'Donovan, because both play a role. And the reality is that there's so many soothing words being said out there. Some of you will be familiar with the poet Michael Hartnett. Michael Hartnett came from West Limerick, from Newcastle West. And just 3 months ago, our Minister for Culture went to that arts festival and made the following points: that he acknowledged that there was a need for arts capital funding in this country. He acknowledged that this should be a priority for him. He also went on to say that he wants to develop theatres, performance space, art spaces across this country. And yet, with those lovely words, contrast that with the dismissive letter that was received by Vanessa last night for this incredible space here, this multidisciplinary space that is unique across Dublin and across this country. But the dismissive attitude, the passing of the buck to the local authority, the washing of the hands and saying he has no responsibility. And I had to ask the Minister today, is it the case that he's only interested in the arts outside of Dublin? Because that's what he seems to be telling us. And if that is the case, that is utterly unacceptable. And I ask people to remember that when they come to voting in the by-election next year. So the reality now is that we need to make sure that we get the funding in place for Vanessa and her team here in the complex, and all the livelihoods and the lives of people who come here to perform, to make their art day in, day out. Obviously, yes, I'm sorry, I'll finish up now. Obviously, Dublin City Council have stepped up to the mark. The department have stepped up to the mark in terms of the fit out, but there is that shortfall. And the figures are a drop in the ocean in terms of what we have, in terms of our budget, our budgetary surplus. Ireland has the healthiest public finances across the whole of the European Union. And it says something about our government and about our city if they cannot pony up the few million to ensure that this remains integral to the cultural fabric of our city. So Vanessa and everyone else here, you have my full commitment that we will work day and night to try and ensure the security and the future of the complex. It's not going to be easy, as we all know, but we will do our damnedest to try to keep on raising this issue, pressurise government into writing that cheque and securing the future of this fantastic place.
Thank you, Marie, that's really appreciated. I'm now going to call on Andrew Shannon from Tender.
My talking on stage is in front of other people, but that's how much I love the complex. I'm from Tender, represent Tender, which is a queer party. Had been nomadic until we found this beautiful building, and everyone look up. Like, look up, look up. A ceiling, you can't touch the ceiling. Everywhere we go to dance, you can touch the fucking ceiling. And it's expansive, and it's big, and it's beautiful, and you can do lighting with Ben upstairs. You can have really beautiful stage design. Things we don't get to do, but things where we go to Berlin, we go to London, we see these things, and we're like, oh, I wish I had that at home. And we do have that here. And hopefully we have the ability to save it. And just keep it, because if we lose it like everyone else is listing out places, once it's gone, it's gone. Dancing also is community building. It's really important. If we lose dancing, we are losing a really important part of our social connection, and we just can't afford to do that. Also, we had a huge amount of money to go to the NFL, and as Marie says, it is a couple of million, a lot of money for any of us here, but it's not a lot of money for the powers that be with a surplus of 7 million in November or whatever it is. We also should be so proud of what the complex is and looking around here and kind of harness our energy, harness our creativity, and put that into saving the complex. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much. I'm going to call on Owen O'Keefe next.
How's it going? Look, I've played here a couple of times. It's an absolutely beautiful venue to play in, but more importantly has been actually just coming to gigs here, coming to jazz gigs, experimental gigs, electronic music gigs, going to art exhibitions, album launches, and then also rehearsals for various different projects that I've been involved in, but just bumping into friends who've just been, you know, even last Saturday I filmed a video down here and I ran into a couple of friends of mine who were doing an ensemble practice, and it just kind of shows you the importance of the place and the amount of people that are here this evening. When we have, you know, roof lines cut, we have rain pouring down and hundreds of people coming out to fill the space. And I think Vanessa and the complex management have been doing absolutely everything they can to engage with the state on this, to try and get this money. But there's been a huge, as people have said, there's been a huge amount of passing the buck, and that has to stop. And I think, you know, I don't want to talk anymore about the importance of the space because people know, everybody here knows, and you've heard it from a lot of people. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we might be able to do to help the complex to kind of build the power that we need to win this fight. Because Brian mentioned the cobblestone earlier on, and I want to, you know, draw a bit from that experience. It's, you know, different in that this was a planning issue. There's a 9-story hotel meant to be built on a pub, whereas this is about the building being sold. The main focus there was on DCC and trying to get them to deny planning permission. The main focus here is to get the Department of Finance and Culture to basically provide the 6 million in funding. But what is the same is the way that both places have been such integral parts of the cultural life and landscape of the inner city, and how people have mobilised to save these places. People who are struggling to pay rent, people struggling to pay their bills, artists trying to carve some kind of space out for themselves, with all of the kind of hotels and student accommodation closing in around you, trying to carve something out of that thinning space around them. And then seeing these spaces come under attack, and the refusal behind it, and that's what we're seeing with everybody in the room tonight. It's a refusal to allow this to happen. So I want to make 2 proposals based off the experience of the cobblestone about how we can channel that refusal into action. And one is, I think we should have a massive email writing campaign to the Department of Culture and to the Department of Finance. We should have thousands of people telling them it's time to stop passing the buck. It's time to give us the money, give the complex the money, and save the space. And the second thing that I want to say is, the thing that really kicked off the cobblestone campaign was when we had Feet on the Street. We had a huge protest 2,000 people came out, musicians, artists. It was energetic, it was vibrant, it was positive, and the whole community got out. And that was really the thing that put it on the map and made it impossible to ignore. The media loves to see artists and musicians and the community around them. So I think that for the, oh, it's not up there anymore, but the marathon that's planned next week, I think one of those days we could assemble on Smithfield Square as the community and come in and support the complex in huge numbers and march down here and hear the music and hear whatever performances are happening. So that's my two proposals, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Man with a beautiful voice. And Angus O'Shnoddick, another man with a strong voice. Thank you, Angus. From Sinn Féin.
This bar Brown Mary Lou nach raibh siad an bheith seo tá sí táim fi láthair agus le mo go tá mi sé táim comá so fálamach goin. I don't know what to say, follow the last number of speakers. They've said it all in many ways, but the reason we're here is how do we use our collective power? How do we get the powers that be who have access, who can leverage funds to do exactly that in a very short period of time, and Christmas in the middle of it. And I know in the Dáil, quite a number of TDs in the Shannon have raised this issue directly with ministers. I've done it myself, and I continue doing it, but we're getting a deaf ear. So we need the power of yourselves. And I agree with email campaigns, but that will not be enough. And we can discuss this at the tables afterwards. We need people to reach out to every single politician in this country, talk to them, everyone, not just the Fianna Fáilers, Fine Gaelers, the Independents, Sinn Féin, before profit, everyone, so that the pressure comes. The Dáil sits for another 3 days next week, then it's on holidays. And guess what? The day before the deadline. So the pressure has to come from you for next week. I was thinking there just kind of, what's the sum of money involved? How big is it? Well, it's a lot smaller than spent on the phone pouches last year. That's the context. So if you're trying to come up with ideas how to explain what it is. I come from a family of artists, musicians and that. I've been in all those spaces that were mentioned. I'm right back to when I was only a little kid. They're all gone, or they're going, bit by bit. And what you end up then is sometimes you'll get a small sanitized space under a block of apartments or whatever, or you'll be moved out to the suburbs, kind of in broken down places. We need the spaces that we have already protected, and we need a lot more to ensure arts flourish in this city and flourish, and it's not just a city, flourish throughout Ireland. We supposedly pride ourselves on our artistic endeavour. The state is never shy about saying how great we are, the artists, the musicians, all around the world, yet they won't invest in the space for the next generation, the next generation, the next generation to come. Because that's what sets us apart, is that we have creativity in Ireland, but we need to harness it, we need to show why we're different, and this space does that for me and for everybody else. I had an event here last year, and Vanessa was brilliant, and the whole team here was brilliant in helping us put on an event which was looking at arts and kind of arts policy for our own party. But again, space. Everybody's looking for space. In the very building that is now under threat, that kind of nearly says it all for me. So during the couple of minutes afterwards, find ways in which to interact with those who have the money, the politicians or elsewhere, that can ensure over the next 2 weeks that we save this building.
Thank you, Angus, and thank you for all your contributions, and to date, they've been really appreciated. Mark O'Kelly. Mark O'Kelly is here. Mark's an artist, Ex-Arts Council, for instance, and has been a long-time supporter of the complex. Mark, you 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So I agree with everything that's been said here tonight. It's a really extraordinary group of people here, and that's fantastic to see everybody coming together. And it's about time. It's long overdue. Artists are very reasonable people, probably too reasonable, very good, optimistic people, always believing in the good thing turning out. But in all my experience of about 30 years in the Arts of Ireland since I was a student, all the places that George Hooker mentioned, I've been in them all too, and I've seen them all closed. I've worked in them. And in working in them, I've witnessed the really hard, detailed, boring work that people have done to sustain those spaces, filling in forms, being imaginative, rallying groups like this, doing all sorts of things to raise money, to meet objectives of the state, to have community outreach, and to do things which are meaningful in the context of people who say it's not meaningful. And they do that again and again and again. And what do they get for that? Sort of platitude, kind of reasonableness, kind of bureaucratic answer. Things like, we don't do capital funding. We'll look at that. We'll have a committee. We'll look into it. We'll make a policy. So great effort has been expended in the past to change this. But people have every right to be angry. And as somebody who's older now, and who has young family, you know, or they're adults now. My daughter is a student in NCAD. And I was at her exhibition tonight. She was very excited about it for weeks. And they were all there working in teams and doing all their work. They made work about ecology and mental health and all sorts of things like this. And they're very optimistic. And they're planning for the future to do more of this. Don't know where they think they're going to do it. Brought students to Amsterdam a few weeks ago. And we went on the ferry away from the train station over to the islands north of the city. They gave all the islands to the artists. There's graffiti everywhere. There's rubble and plants and bits of metal. And artist studios built ramshackle inside huge buildings that were built to build ships, big metal ships. That's the transformation of culture we need here. We're a good country. We are good people and we have a lot to offer. Get your foot off our neck. Thank you very much.
Gary Gannon's up next. Thank you. TD for Social Democrat.
No worries, all folks as well. It was last Wednesday evening when a WhatsApp message came into a group that I'm in that said the complex art theatre was closing. I think anyone that was in there was an artist previously in residence here who talked about how much this place has meant to her, how important it was to her work, and how best we as a group could start organising and elevating and contacting to see how best we can help. And in the week that has passed, I've heard about a lot more things that are complex. The first person I contacted was Simon Harris's office because he holds a position that was previously held by a person who made a promise that left Vanessa unfulfilled, and reminded them of the promise that they made to this centre. And we were redirected to and told that it was too complex. That this wasn't about the Department of Finance. This was now being sent over from Simon Harris over to Patrick O'Donovan's office. So then we got on to Patrick O'Donovan's office, and he then told us that actually this wasn't his office that was involved, it was deeper. And all the while we're hearing that, like, everybody wants to help, but it's a bit complex. We don't know where funding is coming from, we don't invest in capital expenditure, it has to come from this department or that. But then, when you actually step back from it, you can simplify it and say it's actually not that complex. The people who have, this isn't money that's owned by Jack Chambers, it's not money that's owned by Patrick O'Donovan or Simon Harris. This is the money that's raised by people who pay their taxes and contribute to life in this city. And what they're asking for is a place where they can dance, a place where they can do the theatre, a place where they can be in residence and actually just do the work and the contribution that they want to make. So we're being told this is a complex issue, but there is a willingness to help. But actually, I don't think we should accept that. I think we should actually just say, actually, you know, sometimes things are just simple. People need a place where we can have our art, a place where you can dance, where we can actually say no more do we see the venues of the culture of this city being lost, and actually just make it simple. Just hand over what we need to keep this spirit of this place alive. Because this building was built and occupied and taken over with people like Vanessa who put heart and soul just to create a space where actually people could feel, well, actually this is what it used to be like in the city, where there was places where people actually got into old buildings and turned them into something a little bit special, just so they could feel special. So this is the only complex I want to save. Everything else after that just needs to be simplified. The money needs to be handed over, the promises need to be fulfilled, and people need to have a space in this city where they can just dance, do your art, have an office where you can do your crafts, and actually just be left unburdened and not have the stress of another place closes down. And the trauma of a city that is losing its culture, not because there's not enough people that want to contribute to it, but because there's not enough interest in the state. I mean, 6.5 million is less than a third of what Greyhounds get. It's less than what the American football got. Where there is a will and a desire, there's absolutely a way, and it just needs to be simplified. And thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Simple. Councillor Janet Horner, you're up next. Janet's been brilliant to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Yeah, it feels a bit strange now being on stage at the complex. I'm among probably the least artistic people in the room here tonight. So I've been in the complex in the audience many times, but I have never been here and been on the stage. So forgive me if I'm a little bit nervous to be here. What I wanted to mention specifically is 2 years ago, this part of the city saw horrific riots that tore apart the fabric of our society as well as the infrastructure of the city itself. On the back of that, the Taoiseach at the time, Simon Harris, who is now our Minister for Finance, convened the Taoiseach's task force. Among the key recommendations in it is about the value of culture in the city and the value of culture to the life of its contribution to social cohesion in the city, to ensuring that we have a city where we know each other, we're connected to each other, and we have a shared sense of investment in this wonderful city that is ours. And from that Taoiseach's Task Force report, there was also a commitment to €1 billion of investment in what we need to see for the city. That 1 billion was talked about an awful lot coming up to election time, inevitably. It faded slightly since then, and we have yet to see a cent of that money. But we know we have €1 billion that has been committed by government to invest in the fabric of our city, to make it stronger, to build our links. And we know that it is incredibly much more cheaper to preserve what we already have in this ecosystem and this infrastructure in this building here than it is to allow that to be lost and then to try creating it from scratch again. That is a 10-year project, if ever, to try to actually find buildings, find the communities, these spaces to bring people together and ensure and develop something as hugely beneficial as what we have in the complex here at the moment. So I want to bring it back to Minister for Finance, Simon Harris, and say, look, if you were serious, and I actually do believe, I think, you know, we can be cynical about who their politicians are. I do believe that everybody who's spoken here tonight and everybody who has the privilege of representing this city really does care about the fabric of it and really does want it to do its best. But we do need that feeling of goodwill to be matched by actual, number one, money, and number two, work and commitment. There are issues involving how we get the money, but if it is there, if the goodwill is there, and if the commitment to actually spend the money on this place is there, we can make this work. And we know we can make it work. DCC will make it work. I have every confidence in them. I know that for all the many things we complain about DCC, they are committed to the cultural infrastructure of this city, and if they ever forget, they have an endless number of councillors who will remind them all the time, because I know, and there's councillors in the room, Donna Cooney, Noel Brown, who are fantastic artists and really do stress the role and the importance of the arts all the time. So I do believe we will save the complex, and maybe again, I choose to be optimistic about this. I do believe we will, and I do believe we will because it's the tenacity of Vanessa and the team in the complex
who have shown me from day one of being a councillor just how much hard work they put in and how committed they are to cultural spaces in the city. And I believe they are going to do everything they can, and they will be backed by a lot of people as well to ensure this place is saved. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you. Finally, we have Alison Pilkington, who is a studio artist, and she's our final speaker. When her 3 minutes are complete, we'll take a 5-minute break for loo trips and drinks, and we'll come back then and have an open forum. Thank you.
Hi everyone. On behalf of the studio members at the complex, I'd like to shed light on our experience as artists in this unique and diverse space. I want to highlight the importance of studios for the production of our work, and I want to emphasise what the impact of their closure will mean for us, our community and culture in Ireland. The studio members of the complex are award-winning artists, designers, musicians and makers, many of whom have represented Ireland at exhibitions, performances, art prizes and biennials at home and abroad. We've received funding and support for our work from a range of bodies, both in the public and private sectors. A large number of the studio members at the complex are also educators and community activists, engaging with diverse groups, art centres, community outreach and educational institutions at primary, secondary and third level. We are committed to the cultural, social and educational impact of our work, both nationally and internationally. There's a popular misconception that artist studios are places of solitude and individual endeavours. On the contrary, artist studios are based upon group engagement and generosity of spirit. Developing and nurturing a community of practice is most effective in physical spaces such as the complex. Our studios are a microcosm of connectivity, and many of us have collaborated on projects which started through informal conversations in the corridors and the kitchen area of our studios. The ecosystem is made possible by the close quarters of conversation and collegiality that emerge organically when artists are side by side. The sudden notice to quit has devastated us as studio members. Uprooted and displaced, all of us face the potential of having to find an alternative workspace at short notice. Spaces which are few and far between. If you have ever been stirred by a painting, listened to a piece of music, watched a film, admired a costume in a performance, or enjoyed a workshop or public arts talk, then you must recognise that the results of creative work enrich your life and contribute hugely to culture and well-being. But these projects that you engage with and enjoy do not happen overnight. They do not happen in isolation. They do not happen without accessible and affordable studio art spaces. We urge assistance to safeguard and continue existence of the complex in the North Inner City and to secure a permanent location for this diverse and ambitious arts venue, which has taken years to establish with such integrity. We ask of you, please recognise the cultural crisis that is happening in the city. Please value what we do as artists, designers, musicians and makers. Please save the complex studios so that art and culture can not only survive but thrive.
Thank you, everybody. We'll take 5 minutes. Thanks everybody. We don't want to lose anybody, and we really value everybody's contribution. If we can make everybody who wishes to speak heard, that would be so good. I've said to people that we'd stay another half an hour, and I hope that's time. Please. Thank you so much, everybody. The audience numbers are depleted, but I think there are people outside getting a drink. We're just going to kick off, and this is what we're going to do. We've got roving mics, so if you have a contribution to make or a question to ask, I'll be here up on the stage to answer any questions, but we've got a microphone here, and I'm just going to kick off with Janice Boylan because she has to be somewhere else. So, Clarabelle, would you mind delivering a mic there? And just before, Janice, I'd just like to say thank you so much to the 20 people and their really brilliant contributions. I can't tell you how much support we have, and obviously I'm here just keeping it together, but I'm absolutely aware that all of that and all of that goodwill and all of those brilliant messages need to convert into a check or a transfer or whatever that is. But it's going to disappear into the ether of history if it doesn't convert really soon into something that's real and tangible. So I'm going to hand over to Janice for a few minutes. There, Janice.
I'll be quick, I promise you. Thanks very much. Councillor Janice Boylan, I have of course support the complex, and I have done from the very start when Vanessa was overhauling in Smithfield, I think it was about 15 years ago.
And the rest.
And the rest, yeah. So look, the space is vital to all arts, all culture, and the community. This community in the market area is rich in culture and heritage. And this community has always been welcomed into this space. And I think it's very important because we wouldn't have ever had the likes of a theatre in this community before. And to have it now is absolutely fantastic. And to lose it will be an absolute catastrophe. So we need to keep the pressure on. I have two suggestions, but I just want to make one point. I received a couple of emails on this. And one email really moved me because it was from a small business in Manor Street who said that they rely heavily on this space for their yearly overheads. So we know we're not only losing the culture and the artistic space, but we're actually losing livelihoods as well if this space goes. So we can't let that happen. I will do all I can, and I know the party and Mary Lou and Angus himself will do all he can to make sure that the government listens. If they can spend 9 million on phone pouches, they can spend 6 million on keeping this together. So my two suggestions are a protest to the Dáil next week, because there's only 3 days left before they go on their holly bops for Christmas. And then the second one is to continue emailing every councillor, every TD and every Shanador, and making sure that they're aware that this space needs to be kept and we won't stop until it is. Burmagut.
Thank you, Janice. Very welcome. Thank you so much. How are you feeling, everybody? Would anybody like to speak?
Yeah, and I'm conscious that my colleague, Councillor Janet Horner spoke, but Councillor Donna Cooney, I'm Green Party spokesperson on arts and culture. I'm also an artist, and you know, I've been in spaces that I've lost my studios, I've lost, you know, like all of us, I understand what it's like. I'm on Dublin City Council Public Art Advisory Working Group with Ray and with Sunil and a few others that are here tonight. And we're looking at spaces and new spaces and adapting other spaces. But what is the point in doing that if we lose what we already have? You know, we make one step maybe forward and 2 or 3 back. And we need to save the spaces that we have already. And, you know, there's no point in the departments sidelining this, you know, in one minister or another minister. The funding needs to be found. And if there are any sort of concerns they have around giving the money, you know, directly to the complex, there's ways around that with Dublin City Council. There are always ways around it. And Minister Patrick O'Donoghue doesn't, whatever it is, he says he likes country and western or something, and maybe this is all too highbrow for him. But there's an awful lot here. We've got everything from pantomime, and we need to do drag, country and western. We will for that 6 million. But you know, and I don't want to be derogatory towards him. But you know, let's just give us the money, and you know, and we'll keep him happy as well. Thanks.
Anybody like the microphone?
Thank you very much. So my name's Richard, and I am one of the 181 musicians who use the cooler space upstairs regularly for rehearsal, practice, gigs, live streaming events, lots of stuff, lots of really, really good stuff that we do for ourselves and other people, to benefit the city, to benefit the world, to benefit culture, to benefit the arts, to benefit humanity. If that sounds a little bit too grandeur, I mean, come on, we're artists, we dream big. I want to thank everyone who's spoken really passionately in defense of this space already. Like, I was feeling pretty bad coming out here because it's not good news to have, but when I saw the crowd, when I saw all of you here, I started to feel the electricity in the air, in the space that we share. And I think to myself, there is, like, it's one thing to hear that there's 13,000 signatures on a petition, but it is another thing altogether to see you all here. And I would like to just further make the point that, especially every one of the speakers here who are affiliated with a political party, I really hope that we are not just hearing words here. I really hope that we are hearing intent to action. And I like the idea of the petition campaign. I like the idea of keeping the Dáil secretaries busy in the run-up to them going on their holidays. But we all know that petitions can be ignored, emails can be shuffled off, and politicians go on their holidays. It is up to us to defend this space. And if I can collaborate on a couple of issues that were shared here, particularly with Ona Canavan and our speaker from Sinn Féin, we can speak to the powerful. We can make their lives more difficult. And we can get our feet on the streets, especially on the weekend from the 17th and the 19th. Somebody mentioned maybe a demonstration, a protest in Smithfield. And I'm just thinking, if all of the people in this room showed up to that protest, that's a decent crowd. And if we're going to march to the complex, I mean, it'd be a shame if the Lewis line got blocked on the way. And if infrastructure in this city kind of ground to halt for an hour or two, or maybe it wouldn't be, maybe this would be one of the ways that we put pressure on this uncaring system, this uncaring city.
I'm going to have
they
to
can
ask
see
you
us.
to wrap it up. Well done. Thank you.
Do you think we could move now to more suggestions? Anything that you think that we can do, because we've talked, we've petitioned, we've written, we've talked, we've tried to get ministers together with officials, we've tried to speak from our own supporters, and I have to shout out for the Arts Council, who've been absolutely brilliant to us and really pushed on our behalf, and Dublin City Council have really tried and are still trying to undo the cat's cradle, but we seem to be stuck in finance. There's no representative from Fine Gael here. They're on holidays, I believe, and I'm not sure that they have ever been here, actually. It's the only party that's never been here, as far as I know, in any guise. Every other party has used the place or has done something here or has at least an interest in it, and I don't know how to penetrate that. Has anybody got an idea? I've reminded them of that. It doesn't seem to be a consideration.
Really quickly, this is not the time to think about an alternative venue. There is no alternative other than for the complex to remain here. That's it. Additionally, this is not actually a conversation about money, it's a conversation about values. So what we have to do is persuade the people with their hands on the purse string for the value of this place. There's been a lot of talk about lost venues. Now it's time to talk about gain, about community gain, civic good, and the public good. And once more, if the people in the various departments can't use their imagination, we encourage them to do so, and we can show them how.
Hello, my name is Robert Dunn. I'm a filmmaker. I've done work here in relation to film collectives like Kino D and so on, and low budget artistic venues like the Complex been very beneficial to me in my work. I'm also involved in a day-to-day. My day job is in the Shannon. And just if we're looking at other suggestions that maybe haven't been applied just yet, or maybe they have in some shape or form, but in the Catherine Conley campaign, there was a real attempt in order to tap in to a series of grassroots groups, artists and so on, but I'm wondering about the extent to which there has been a public campaign coordinated with a variety of different artists. For example, maybe NCAD, maybe IADT, maybe broader collectives associated with, and trying to generate an online campaign that would also be focused on trying to encourage people in order to go and to communicate with politicians, or even potentially to go and fundraise money. Another suggestion that I would like to make as well is just in the point of communicating with politicians, but in my time, I have seen the dial change with regards to some campaigns that looked impossible, and then as a result of emailing campaigns and pressure that people have put on politicians, they've been able to turn around and they've been able to prevail. But you do have to go and you do have to keep communicating. And even with regards to county councils, one thing is, some of you, if you're not Irish citizens, you might not think you have a vote, but in county councils you do, and in city councils you do, and that's important to go and to keep in mind. And even if you're not from this constituency, do communicate with your local TDs, any senators in your area, and do say that the arts and culture and the issue that's going on here is an important election issue to you, and that it is something that will shape how you go and vote in the next election. But yeah, those are the additional suggestions.
Thank you very much. Yes, hello.
Hello. Hi, my name is Noelle Brown.
Hello, Noel.
Hi, yeah. I've been an artist since 1987, and I've seen all the buildings close, and I've seen theatre companies go to the wall, 22 companies in 2 years at one point. I'm now, since March, also on Dublin City Council as councillor. So that's my other job. I think we have a fundamental problem in this country. I don't think anybody's aware, but the word arts is no longer a government department. It was removed without a whisper earlier this year. And I think that is a huge problem. We have culture, but we no longer have arts, because in this country, we don't understand how art is made. Because the people with the money come and see the finished product, all dressed up, and they have no idea. I went up to the Louvre here just a few minutes ago, and there's somebody up there working, sitting in a studio working. We need to open the doors to those people. It's a pain in the arse when someone comes into a rehearsal room to sit and watch. But we need to let them know what the blood, sweat and tears that goes into making. They need to see inside these spaces, because I think that is a complete disconnect at the moment. I'm not going to go on about it, but it is something that is really, really important. I will do what I can as a councillor. I'm trying to do that in Dublin City Council already, to make sure that arts is back in the government department. Not just culture, arts, which is the making of art. In terms of the campaigning, I was here for Catherine Connolly. That's what happened when people voted for her. That's how we all got together. It was a mass campaign. Don't underestimate the emails, because I've been a campaigner around another issue since 2013. And at one point, we didn't have a movement. We got enough people to break the Dáil server with emails. And the minister in question was forced to do a U-turn and not seal records for 30 years, which is what we wanted to happen. So don't underestimate it. Keep emailing, keep advocating, make videos, put your videos up online and ask for a meeting with the minister. Letters go backwards and forwards all the time, and I know you've had your letter which was dismissive, but demand a meeting. Demand that he come here and see where the art is made. Bring him through the building and go, there's someone working there, there's someone working there, because for too long they're just seeing the presentation of art and they have no clue how it's made. Thank you.
No, I'd just like to come back to you there and say that the previous Minister for Finance was here 3 times this year for meetings to discuss this very thing. It has been a long process of engagement, and we're only here. I don't know what to do now to make that happen. We've put up a QR code which will appear here at the end with a link to, and a very, very simple link as well, to something which we suggest goes to Jack Chambers, because that minister seems to be the most receptive at this point and probably has the power to do something about it. And so we're suggesting that everybody uses that. We've written the text. He's met with us too. It's a problem that there really isn't a vehicle for cultural infrastructure funding. There just isn't. And I absolutely get that people are saying it can be worked out, Donna, and everybody, and Ray Yates is fantastic, he's imaginative and brilliant in trying to achieve that. But we need the money to come from central government, and there doesn't seem to be will. What can we do to change that? Just a sec, Donna, this person here's got their hand up. No, it's all right, we come to you first, this one. Because you've already spoken, Donna. No problem.
Hey, how's it going? I'm John. Me and Kill run Damnation Animation Festival,
Yeah,
which is here, so thank you so much for having us.
Hi.
One of the things, just from what you said earlier, sorry I didn't catch your name, Robert, and just from hearing what everyone's saying in the room, it's clear right now that nobody in government is listening from what you're saying. And I think we're past the point, and especially with the deadline involved, we're past the point where going through the correct channels, the normal channels, the expected channels are going to do anything. We know they've already failed us. So I'm also fearful of using the Complex's brand to rattle cages there. But I think and if just look at everyone in the room, there's an unbelievable amount of talent here that if we work together as supporters of the Complex and actually drew attention to the fact that for instance, you can name all of the politicians who have failed us through this and show the examples. I believe yourself, you said about how they don't. I think one of the problems we have right now is everyone, like especially AI and all that coming in, people don't know what's happening under the hood when we're creating art. So we're in a situation where they don't know what's happening. They think this just magically appears, and these events happen, and they're not putting their, given any kind of financial help there. So what I'm thinking is, if we can actually call them out as supporters of the complex, not the complex yourselves. Like, we put a group together with very talented people who can make the media, you mentioned Catherine Connolly's campaign, exactly that, where we put talented people together, we make something that's really powerful, a powerful argument to say this isn't good enough. There's so little left for any artists in this city and in this country, and I just think now is the time that we can actually work together and use our talents to actually make something happen, rather than go through these normal routes where it's like begging for pennies from people who are that don't care about art, believe that the museums are full and there's no need for any new art now. So that's pretty much it. I'll stop talking. I'm sorry.
Thanks for the contribution. Thank you.
Anyone blind in the headlights?
Thanks. There was one point made earlier that I just found very interesting. The fact that our cultural footprint here in Dublin is closer to Girona. Does that meant, just the size? And I just thought whether contacting our MEPs or going through kind of Europe, it might. I know that's not going to happen or make a big impact in the short term. But maybe there's some way of, I don't know what their holidays over Christmas are like, or whether it'd be worthwhile having a letter that was a big group signed petition to our MEPs to recognise the fact that we're so poorly under-resourced as a city.
I'd say for the macro argument, that's a very good idea. Probably for us, it's too time sensitive. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, we'll come back to you.
So could I just make a small but pretty obvious point, and it builds on what you said. We are daily, taking 10 calls a day. I cannot imagine what Vanessa, what her days are looking like. We're getting messages from her at 2 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock the next morning. It's a small team here. Everyone's doing the right stuff. Everyone's doing all the things that has been called from the floor tonight. Can I put it back to you guys though? You take on the campaign as well. Don't wait for a rally call. Don't wait for an event to be organised. Don't wait for a petition. Work within your own ecosystem. Work within your own artistic communities, your political communities, whatever. You can be much more open than we can. Because I wouldn't want to be in a position of saying that, I don't know, Paschal Donoghue lied to us. I would never want to say that, because I might have to meet with his successor at some point. So you can be much more open than us. You can be much more obvious than us. It was interesting when Ona Carnivine was talking about the cobblestones. Tom Mulligan and his family could not have mounted that campaign on their own. They were swept off their feet by the traditional arts community. And it was that community that organised the protests and the rallies and the concerts, etc. Share the load. Vanessa cannot do this on her own. She's stretched. I have no idea how she's still standing upright. So please, let's see some of this stuff happening from the room.
Hi there. I'm Giles Donovan, lecturer at NCAD. We've spoken via email, and just to echo the previous speaker, Jesus, fair play, and thank you for the immense amount of work that you are putting in. I think that thinking really strategically here and what can be done in very time-sensitive things is thinking about how to hold people accountable and to whom they're held accountable. And something that's really clear in both international media, right, and slightly more localized European media is the present government's failings to meet various EU directives and to understand how the arts and culture play a role in meeting SDG goals and these kinds of things. So whilst that's part of a broader macro argument, something that could be done quite fast, and I'm kind of fearful that I'm volunteering myself for this. If anyone here wants to help me, I'd be really appreciative. And moreover, if anyone here has the correct emails to send this to, that would be really great. But if we were able to map the ways in which the complex achieves the Irish government's need to meet EU goals and how getting rid of it will contribute to the failing of those in a neat infographic or one-page document, you know, that might be an extra push, again, just pointing to accountability and the failing of large-scale institutions to meet their international commitments. You know? So just that, and thank you to everyone for the beautiful words of support. It's been, you know, really cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for thinking outside the box. That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. I wanted to really echo your words about our involvement, and I feel people throw around the word direct action and engagement and doing something ourselves and kind of the power of doing something together a lot, but what does that really mean? And I've had the absolute privilege in volunteering for Amnesty since I was a wee little teenager, and in more than a decade what that taught me is things like letters and both being face-to-face to people, but not just emails, not hashtags, which is obviously so important, but actual handwritten emails change so much. Like in that decade I've been doing that work, people have been political prisoners in Russia, like really stuff that seems impossible. Like that stuff is so important, and if every single one of us writes a handwritten letter to, there have been several names mentioned, it would be amazing even if we could get more of those.
I wonder if we could just fast track now and just leave the Q code up, please. Thanks.
Yeah, like especially doing stuff like that, and then sending stuff directly to people's offices, ministers, people in councils, in government. They have to tell them those letters came in. They have to tell them, like, whenever they come into the post office of the building, they can't not tell them that they didn't arrive, and they have to see that they're all coming for the complex. And like, if that would tell me anything, being bombarded with hundreds of handwritten letters changes so much, and it might be, you know, a little extra work, but just to put my 2 cents in that's something I'll be doing, and hopefully some of you will join me. And thank you so much for the work you do overall, but especially in, you know, the time of crisis, the time to organize this and hear how we can chip in. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Thank you. There's somebody else.
Hello, just a quick one, but I really agree with what you were saying in terms of like everyone's talents here. In terms of being hands-on, like sometimes it's as simple as just making a WhatsApp group that I'm very much willing to do. And for me personally, I think it needs to be a space, in a public space, where physical people come, just like what people did for the cobblestone. So I'm very much willing to be the facilitator of a WhatsApp group if it means people actually being in a physical space next week. That's all I have to say. So if anyone wants to be a part of that, please come to me at the end of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So our next plan is to do a marathon 3-day gig event, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. The Dáil finishes, Angus, at lunchtime on the 18th, the Thursday, I believe. Right. Continues after that, but they don't bother staying, says Angus. So the gig that we have on the 17th is 6 to 12, on the 18th is 6 to 12, and on Friday, the final one is 7 to 1. And in that time, there are probably 45 bands and performers have agreed to take part, giving their services, which is really wonderful and coordinated by Ben and Colleen Phelan, and we're very, very grateful for that. We have to make that really public, and that has to be the core of the protests that you're referring to, I think. It's our last ditch attempt at it, and if it means I have to lie across the front of the building naked, and you throw arrows at me, I'll probably have to do that. So it's a good idea if we head that off at the pass and see if we can achieve a missile attack on Jack Chambers or Simon Harris when he bothers to get back from holidays. So if anybody knows them, if anybody can get to know them, if anybody can make an impact that's beyond a blooming letter and a really good email, which we'll be counting on you to do it. And do it now, because nothing else is going to shake them, and it seems that those are the only two departments that can do anything, I think. I don't think our Minister for Culture is interested, and I don't think he's going to put pressure on them, and so we have to. That's what I think anyway. And I'm here now on a Thursday, knowing that we've got probably 6 working days left, although they're still working, but they don't bother to turn up, says Angus, but we'll find them. We all know where Simon Harris lives anyway, don't we? And we won't, we do need to do it, because otherwise it's just going to be another failing, another lack of accountability, and all sorts. Maybe we've tried really hard in the campaign to be positive and to keep the door open and to talk about opportunity rather than failure. So I want to keep doing that until Friday next week. And whilst the door's open, I really think we should try and walk through it. What do you think? Are you up for doing that? Yeah? Okay. Donna, there's a microphone there. Thank you.
We in the arts have a lot of power that work in the arts and the arts community. We can use our creativity, but I think this needs to be a wider campaign, not just for those that appreciate and come to the arts or involved in the arts. I think we need to involve everybody from the unions to the Chamber of Commerce to everybody, you know, and I think we should reach out to anybody, you know, in any of those organisations, because, you know, that will really put the pressure on as well. I think if it's only coming from the arts community, it might not be enough. Even if you make videos and you use as many well-known people in videos that advocate for this, but I think we do need to reach out to the wider civil society in order to be impactful as quickly as possible in this. So it's just a suggestion. If you have any contacts or connections on that, I definitely write to anybody I know.
Thank you, John. Is everybody happy if we take a couple more questions, and let's aim to wrap it up at 7:30? Is that good? Was a hand up over here? Yeah.
Just really quickly, just because a few people have talked about the idea of a protest. I want to take up Brian's call and the person who suggested the WhatsApp. If it's 6 o'clock that the marathon is starting, I think I would suggest that the community gathers at 5 o'clock in Smithfield Square, and then that we march over to the complex, and then we support that can be the way of the community getting behind the marathon and kicking it off in that way, and we can see feet on the street, we can contact media, we can do all that. But just suggesting that we agree a time, we just have that set, and then everybody can start working on it.
Yes, dark, might be better to do it in the daytime.
Okay, well I was just thinking of the start time to coincide the two, so that we're marching towards the marathon. That was the thinking behind it. I don't know if people think that's a good idea or...
Should we take a few views? Willie, do you think it's a poor idea because it's dark? Yeah, okay.
It also doesn't have to be the only one, it's just I'm thinking of tying it in with the marathon. You have the marathon, that will bring media, and then they'll be aware that there's a three-day marathon happening. And you can also do another one on a weekend day, you know, like before Christmas. We can see, but I just think it's the best time to mobilise people.
Hold that thought on. Angus?
Yeah, because I don't want to burden people with protest stuff, but if you want to have an impact on the Tuesday before, at least you can announce the marathon to gather at Leinster House. That's where the politicians are. They go in there, they start usually at 2 o'clock. You're there at 5 o'clock, beforehand you catch every single politician going in to let the house around that time. And you could then ask politicians to come out and design a petition, have a big huge picture where they sign that they support it, and you issue that to every politician. So, and it doesn't take a huge amount. The more the merrier, but if it's a group of kind of 50 to 100 artists, play music, whatever, kind of take it doesn't matter if they're there. I think then you have the next day as all the in Springfield.
Will you both?
Yeah, okay. Does anybody have any other views on that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely that would be ideal. Could somebody get a microphone? Clarabelle, Clarabelle, sorry.
Is that working? Oh my God.
Could you get this person? Oh,
I got one.
thank you. So
Echoing,
it's okay, we're just taking this lady first. 2 seconds.
echoing what everyone's been saying, I think we need to do too, like having one during the day where we have that opportunity to really actually verbally lambast some of these politicians while they're leaving the Dáil, letting them know that we're not going to let them go off on their little holiday, have a great time. But also in the evening, I think even if it's dark, why don't we all have lights? Why aren't we all holding something? It's Christmas time. Town is packed all of the time. It's also a time that artists usually put so much into the city, whether it's how it looks, whether it's the gift that you buy your family or your friends. I think that's something that we really need to take hold of, that people are mindful when they're going out around town and shopping. It's artists that are really the lifeline of the city at this time. So yeah, that's what I just
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just a small little tip, something I guess from an activism or even online grassroots activism point of view is the demise of Twitter, the demise of X. It's a hellhole, it's a cesspit, and it used to be really effective for groups and for campaigns like this, including the Cobblestone as well, the Dublin is Dying campaign. Sometimes when people tag politicians into posts, they can be abusive, so I'm not advocating that at all, but it is important to get the eyes of politicians onto this topic. There are, believe it or not, well, as far as I know anyway, some ministers that do manage their own or certainly look into their own social media accounts. So I think who has been very effective in this so far, I don't want to single out any particular outlet, but there are some, I guess you could call them media partners or cultural media outlets who are doing really good work online, and it might be useful, in fact it would be useful to tag senior ministers into all these kind of posts in the future, just to make sure that they see this. Something as well and that has been effective for us in the past, it was very effective and for lots of campaigns, especially during the pandemic as well, when we really need to be heard. Just lastly, I guess there are various stages, and it seems to be when we react to things is when something's been taken away from us. The initial thought is one of shock, of sadness, then that turns into anger, and that turns into action, which is what we want to make happen next. Then we quickly pivot to apathy, and then the whole thing just dissipates. So we have a month now to push at this, and best of luck to everyone, best of luck to the complex.
Thank you so much. There's somebody at the back. Thank you.
Hiya, I was just going to suggest that I think maybe some of the people who are making decisions at the moment aren't the most minded to. Pascal Donahue was a genuinely cultured person. Maybe not everyone else is. So maybe you should look for some of the people in government who, like for example, Hildegard Nocton, who's a trained soprano singer and takes parts in plays every year. You know, to find maybe some of the people who within government can lobby it. And just on a point of hope, you only need to convince one person, Simon Harris. One man can make the decision to change it. So actually that's very doable.
How do you suggest we do that?
Well, someone earlier said, what are you going to do? So I will personally write to Hildegard Nocton tomorrow. And I think other people can think about who else do they know, and maybe think about Greystone. Simon Harris is based there. Make it personal. I would.
I think probably the decision lies with the Secretary General's, doesn't it, with the officials rather than the Minister. But that's a a step beyond my experience. Okay, there's one more person who wants to speak. Yes, this person?
Thank you. Just very quickly, because it sounds like a lot of us have the same idea about a group organised and separate to the complex. So because, as you said, you have to be in the meetings, right? So it's not like you can drag their names through the mud, but all of us can. So what we could do is very quickly knock together like a graphic that pretty much shows a cutout of the head of whichever politician we're trying to get a hold of, and whatever they've done, whatever they're doing wrong, whatever they're not supporting, and it's literally very easy to pass out and get everyone to post. And that's something we can do very quickly within like a couple of days. Again, lots of talented people in the room. Well, I'm sure we can pull that together. Something like that's very kind of on brand, the same thing, so it's not all different things we're all posting. And then people who have no awareness of the complex are going to see that, what's this thing that we keep seeing coming up? So that can definitely be put together. And you were saying about the WhatsApp group. So I think as supporters of the complex, we can join together and do that, get the right people in the room to design that media, and then we pass it out and we all start posting and sharing with everyone. That's one way we could do this separate to the protest stuff and all that, and it might be useful.
But on that poster, name a time for the people that don't know about this, that then once that poster is shared, it's as simple as that really sometimes.
Yes, the person at the back there. Is that Roman?
Hi, I'm Ronan, I have a studio here. I love the idea of the march. I like the idea of going from Smithfield to here. I also think if I was a politician who lives on the south side and stays in the Dáil all the time, it would be very easy for me to ignore it. So I know a lot of people here have probably been on Palestine protests the last 2 years, which usually end up at the Dáil or Leinster House or Kildare Street, and I think that the marches that we do should be on both sides of the river. So maybe is there a way to organise a march to Leinster House, either as part of the march to here with Smithfield or else separately, and maybe Owen or Angus, who are experienced, would they have any advice? When would be the best time to do that? What would be the best way to do it? Should it be this weekend? Should it be next weekend? Should it be during the week? What's the logistics of that?
I think Angus has suggested Tuesday lunchtime, and Owen has suggested 5 o'clock on Thursday. Or Wednesday, pardon, a Wednesday, yeah. The marathon starts on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Could somebody just get a microphone? Thank you.
I agree with you as well, but we could do that a couple of hours before the marathon, bringing people here each day, then it becomes something.
Oh, yes.
Just really quick, I think
Just
I think these kinds of mobilisations all have different purpose. So the thing at the Dáil, that's a way of you have the politicians coming in, but it's lunchtime, so we won't have huge numbers of people, but we should do it because it does a certain thing. The thing on Wednesday night before the marathon is a way of getting more people there. I know it's difficult coming from work, but people will hopefully be able to make it. If we say 5 o'clock, people might be able to make it for 5:30 and so on. And then it'll be a way of really highlighting the marathon and kicking that off and spreading awareness about that. And we should be able to get a real media push on that to get media down. And they'll see a big vibrant protest and they'll report it, and the politicians mightn't see it at their door, but they'll see it on the media. So there's two different things, and I think we should do both. And then beyond that, a weekend day is when you're going to get the most amount of people. But I think we can start with those two. That's what I would suggest, and then we can see after that.
Okay, that sounds kind of doable, doesn't it? Do you think it needs to be disruptive?
No, I don't.
somebody, sorry. Knowing politicians and the way politics works, you know, you could basically have an announcement, a press conference on the Tuesday about Wednesday, and you could have a visual that the media would come to outside the door, some sort of a visual, because you don't have the numbers, there's something visual can be done that's impactful outside, but you could also invite them, book Buzzwells and have, because that's where they'll come to it, and invite them all in, you know, to a lunch, and let them hear, you know, from a panel of people speaking at that, and put it up to Simon Harris. Because, you know, I think that could be, if you get a lot of media coverage on the Tuesday ahead, you'll get a lot more of a turn up on Wednesday, and then it'll be a roller, you know, like a roller coaster, and that will cause the most impact, I would say, because I think if you had a small turnout for a protest on Tuesday, it's not going to look good, but if you have a press conference, invite them over, have a visual, a photo op for the media to come along and take on the Tuesday, and that should have a guaranteed big turnout on Wednesday.
Thank you for your help.
But one of the normal form emails. Oh yeah, of course. You know, Simon Harris seems to enjoy that. That's the problem. I don't really take the piss out. No, it's every one of them. Don't concentrate on one or another. And if write personal letters to the people who are working here, people's families who are working here, businesses who are here, it's trying to reflect that as much as possible in every forum that's there. It doesn't matter whether it's even volume. And then loud outside Leinster House on whatever day if you're going there. It's an hour, it's not a march, it's just your rally. So 50 people will be there, make enough noise, and then make sure that you have the media lined up to support the marathon, that they'll report it. That's key, and that builds up its own head of steam. And after that, then it's to plan what next, because you have the whole Christmas period. You don't want to die off or that nothing happens. There is other things, people you can get people be on radio or television and raising it. Just plodding away, and hopefully they will listen. Somebody out there has to be listening. That's what we're here for.
Thank you very much. Folks, I'm aware of your time that we've lent on, and I appreciate so much all the contributions that you've made. Could we make a suggestion? Cian Van, this is kind of putting on you a little bit, but you have stood up to be counted, and you've also proved that you're really good at this as well. So if anybody is willing and able to contribute to creating a protest, whatever form it ends up taking next week, one of the suggestions, and we can liaise together on the things that we're doing with the marathon. And the idea is obviously we'll try and drop some famous people in, and people will speak, and maybe we'll handcuff Simon Harris and bring him down here so he has to see something on the north side. And if anybody is happy to do that and would like to contribute, Owen, would you stand at the top there and take people's numbers and take people's emails so that he can coordinate a group of people to do that? Does that sound good? We've probably taken up everybody's hour and a half of imagination, and we really appreciate that. Just before I go, could I just give a shout out to the staff of the complex who have been brilliant, and the resilience of the studio artists who have kept it together and kept it positive despite this awful prospect, which we are not going to accept. Thank you so much for coming.